For the Kingdom Mission Discussion Panel. These lovely ladies and gentlemen have spent the past few months sharing the good news of Christ. Now they're here to share some good news with us. To my left, we have Whitley Washington, who traveled to the Cayman Islands. Man, the Cayman Islands though, I probably would have had too much fun. No work would have been done.
So now we know not to send you there.
Absolutely not. Next to Whitley, we have Johnny Davis, who traveled to the Philippines. Following Johnny, we have Zach Jeffries, who traveled to the Czech Republic. And last, but certainly not least, we have Nikki Thompson, who traveled to Ghana. Yes. Wow, Nikki, you are decked out. Tell me, where did you get that dress from?
Oh, this is the dress that I got from Ghana on my mission trip.
And are those cards?
Of course, these are the families that sent me cards as well on my mini mission trips as well.
Doing the most, I see. Let's start with you, Whitley. Tell us, how did your trip go?
Listen, this Cayman Islands trip was one for the books. We were hundreds of miles from home, but I felt like I was in miniature Orlando. Over 100 nationalities live there, but they cohabitate so beautifully. All 62,348 of them.
Whoa, those numbers are specific.
I know.
And did you have fun on your trip?
Oh, I had a ball. It was my first mission trip too, let me tell you. We ran into a group of kids walking home from school, and I saw some little girls braiding hair on the curb. I walked up to them to show them my wordless bracelet, which is what I used to tell people about the good news of Jesus. But when I got to the dark bead where I explained what sin and hell were, the babies told me they'd been there before. I was so confused, I didn't know if the heat was messing with my hearing or what. But apparently, in the Cayman Islands, there's a short black field of limestone resembling tombstones that they've named hell. For some odd reason, it's a tourist attraction.
Wow. Were you able to bring people to Christ?
Yes. By the glory of God, those little girls accepted Jesus into their lives that day, and that was only the beginning of the trip. Relying on God's strength and not our own allowed us to bring a lot more kin into the kingdom, y'all.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What religions are practiced out there?
Well,
They're pretty much Protestant and Baptist. Folks, they're familiar with the gospel. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. How about you, Johnny? Tell us about your experience you had in the Philippines.
The Philippines, man, I mean, it was awesome. God always reaps abundantly every time we go out there.
Okay. For our audience, please explain. What do you mean?
Well, we was able to lead like 30,000 people to Christ.
Whoa, that's a lot of people.
oh my God, 30,000?
How's that even possible?
Well, unlike here in the U.S., we're able to share the gospel in the schools out there. I mean, teachers and kids alike were able to receive Christ. The classes were so large, we got to share with so many kids. It was awesome, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those numbers are absolutely amazing. I don't think anyone else on this panel can top that.
Oh, it's not really.
Well, we were able to win souls to Christ too. We were able to convert a Muslim.
Who?
Yes. Which was pretty interesting, but difficult.
I respect that.
That is interesting. Tell us about that, Nikki.
Surely. Ghana has Islam, Christianity, and native religions. Fix my shot. So, thank you, sir. So sharing the gospel there wasn't as easy for us as it was for Whitley.
Ease up on the shade, Nikki. Moving on. Zach Jeffries, representing Prague. Tell us about that. There aren't a lot of Christians there either, right? Okay. How were you able to navigate that?
Very careful. See, we could not always use the Roman road to lead people to salvation. At times, we had to share the gospel through the book of John. And we share the good news that way. Right.
Okay, for our audience, please explain what the Romans road is.
Well, it is a roadmap, primarily filled with scriptures found in the book of Romans, which we use to lead people into salvation.
Amen.
There are Gnostics there too, right?
Yes, there is. And they are slightly easier to reach because they are unsure and have questions. Hard questions, mind you. But they are willing to listen and learn. In fact, we met a family member of 4 that just lost their son a week prior to arrival.
Wow.
The parents could not understand how a good God would take their son away from them. We did our very best to comfort them, but I'll be honest, I was a loss for word. Especially since this is dismissed Jesus as nothing.
Whoa, it's nothing?
Yes, I was taken aback as well.
That's interesting, because death is usually a very difficult topic to talk about. How are you able to bridge that gap between their loss and the gospel, between explaining physical death and spirituality?
Well, I remember reading the book of Luke 12:12 actually. It says that when you're lost, when you're looking for right scriptures to say, the Holy Spirit will lead you to what to say at the time. So we followed the guidance of the Holy Spirit and we were led to share the Gospel of John with the family.
Wow.
And we paralleled their loss with the pain that God felt when He allowed Jesus to die for them to have everlasting life.
That's smooth. That's smooth.
I wish, honestly. But after sharing that God did not take their son away from them, they were a bit more open to listening. I told them that God treasured their son, and that death is a transition that we all must take.
Did they ask you if their son was in heaven?
Yes, they did. After 3 of them prayed for salvation.
Praise God.
Praise Him indeed.
Those 3. Hallelujah, Jesus.
Yes, but it was bittersweet.
Why is that?
See, the eldest child, the boy, he did not pray for salvation. He left the room after finding that salvation is a requirement for heaven. The parents held each other and started crying. But God spoke to me at that moment, Professor.
What did He say?
The devil could no longer use their son's death as a way to create a barrier between them and God. See, the veil was torn for them.
Amen.
Yes, it was.
I see what you did there. Very well said. I want to go back to you, Nikki. Tell us about that conversation you had with the Muslim.
Well, Muslims don't acknowledge the New Testament. Or Injil, as they call it. But they do recognize the Old Testament.
Okay. All right.
Now, they feel that the Injil was made of men, which they don't touch it. But we were able to explain to them that the Holy Spirit moved through God
Amen.
and authored the whole Bible, not just the Old Testament.
Right. Amen.
That's thorough.
It is. It is.
But necessary.
Okay.
That sounds like it was a long conversation.
It was. But I kept silently praying for the gentleman. It was evident that the Holy Spirit was tugging at his heart. Our numbers wasn't as high as Johnny's own, but our salvation was only in the double digits,
Right.
which it was so awesome that we were able to convert the Muslims by our conversation to Christianity. And in doing so, the trip made it worth the while.
Wow.
Knowing that in the midst of that, that God was always there. He was leading and explaining how we could just be one with Him.
Amen.
Now, I agree that when you get asked those hard questions, and you will,
Yes, you will.
the Holy Spirit will give you what you need to say.
Exactly. Exactly.
That was beautiful. And thank you all for sharing your stories with us. On that note, this is a question any of you can answer. What advice would you give someone who wants to go on a missions trip?
Do not be afraid to share the gospel, regardless who's in front of you, because God views all souls as equal.
He does.
That's solid.
Man.
Hey, that's solid, man.
Willie, what advice would you give someone who wants to take on a missions trip?
Well, I would say definitely do your homework before you go on the trip, so you know what to pack and how to prepare and speak to the people once you get there.
That's right.
Great advice, Whitney. That's the best advice you gave all night. Great job.
Johnny, you're the last one, my friend.
Me, I like to think Nike. Just do it. Come on, man.
God is good.
I like it. Straight and to the point. Well, folks, there you have it. Going on a missions trip is rewarding, but it is also challenging. Pray every day that God will give you the opportunity to talk to someone about Jesus. Give generously above your tithes and offering, because we all know plane tickets ain't free. And if you're feeling called to the mission field, prepare yourself, physically and emotionally. In 2 Timothy 2:15, it says, study to show yourself approval unto God, a workman that need not be ashamed, rightfully dividing the word of truth. A mission trip will force you to take on tasks you felt you weren't ready for, and to talk to strangers about Jesus, which I know might sound scary and awkward at first, right? But based on what we heard from our panelists tonight, your obedience to the Lord will awaken a fire in you that can't be extinguished. And many people will come to Christ as a result of your obedience. Bringing people to the kingdom is what matters most. So, on that note, let's do it for
The kingdom!
For the kingdom. Give it up for our 4 major panelists tonight. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for coming.